Vanguard Bandits, Fire Emblem with giant robots, and swords and sorcery. Like Fire Emblem, it's a grid-based movement system where you're on a map, and when you finally attack somebody, it will go into a cutscene where you see what happens during the fight. The differences lie in the fact that, unlike a Fire Emblem, where it deals mostly in hard counters for the older games, by the way, where axe beats sword, sword beats axe, axe beats lance, and lance beats sword. This is about your stats more than anything else. Low dex rarely hits high agility, but gets hit by high dex. But they struggle killing high base and defensive ATACs, but still can use long-range attacks to weaken and slow even stun opponents, which is the thing in this game. The thing that seems to be most useful was high power, but someone with high power can't hit someone with high agility unless they have dex. But if you have high base and defense, you can withstand it. You almost have complete control of how your character plays out in this game. Unlike Fire Emblem, where you get an RNG factor of what your character stats will become, this you have complete control over every level up because you get 3 points to level up into your character no matter what. The only thing that makes it almost is the fact that most of your cast gets super attacks. And if you build up to those super attacks, like having a high dex and high speed to get, let's say, the somersault attack, you can't build into a high defense, high HP, high attack until later on in the game, especially if you're rushing it. Let's talk stats. Base equals health, power equals damage, dex equals accuracy. Agility is dodge and turn rotation, sometimes giving more turns just by increasing it on the high enough. Defense equals block and damage reduction, and WEP is weapon damage. Can be leveled, but never needs to be. It gets increased with new weapons. Now this is important for what stones you use on your mech. Earth, wind, fire, and water. This dictates what attacks and support skills you will learn throughout the game, and depending on what character, if they can learn their super attacks or not. Fire uses high damage moves using high base and power to learn moves. Mostly frontliners, support skills increase damage and weapon arts. Wind, dex, and agility, good long-range attacks. Buff agility, can use long-range attacks to force enemies to use FP from long range. We'll get into that later. Water gets scaled from dex and defense mostly. Most moves are used to weaken the enemy, but has one of the best support abilities in Cooling Mechs. Heals your FP for around 30 FP each time you use it, and can be used after using attacks. Earth is base and dex, good attacks, but the support skills are what make them great. Quick turn. The enemy randomly turns in another direction, which we'll get into later, and has one of the only healing skills in the game. The most important part of this game is the AP and FP. They're used for everything in battle. AP is used for movement and offensive attacks and support skills. FP is used by offensive and defensive attacks, blocking, avoiding, and countering. The big difference in FP over AP is that when it fills, you get stunned, but when you stop your turn without doing anything, you'll reset your FP to 0. Positions are important for every move in the game. Attack someone from the front gives them all of their defensive options, and they take reduced damage and a better chance to dodge. Attack someone from their side, they take more damage, their damage reduction is reduced, and they can't use their counter move, which is one of the lower FP using abilities that still allows them to do damage. If you attack someone from behind, the only thing they can do is dodge, and they take the most damage from this position. FP is used for all of this, by the way. Attacks take the most FP because it adds your AP to the FP, but is a good chance to hit someone without a defensive move, unless the attacker hits a knockdown. This game's all about controlling FP, yours and your opponent's. You can do this from using long-range attacks to doing very little on yours, stopping your turns early. But one of the more effective strategies to control your opponents is called using turbulence. It's the longest range attack in the game, except for one the final boss has, and it's used by wind users, and it has a knockdown effect. Knockdown stops any counterattacks at all, so it forces blocking, and it has a high hit rate. So it forces them to use 20 FP every time they block it. But you can also do stuff like taking attacks, because attacks take, so like I said, use AP and FP combined as a defensive attack into just FP. So some attacks can just take 95 FP or even 85. So if you have a high base health and defense character and they attack and they can withstand that attack, you just took that character to 70 or 85 FP instantly from just him doing an offensive move. Now, all you have to do is use a Turbulence or even attack him once and make him defend, and he will stun. And you can attack him with 4 characters, even all of your characters, and it'll be the same damage as if you were attacking him from behind. But now it's 100% hit rate because he got stunned. And your abusive stun is going to save you a lot of work. And because the computer will do, at high FP, like 20 or so above, they will just not take a turn. And that's saved my life in multiple fights. Like this one I'm showing, where I accidentally stunned Bastion, my main character, not paying attention to how much a soaring dance will do to my FP. I stunned myself, and the only reason I don't lose is because I use Turbulence and other attacks to stun the only opponent that can attack him until my next turn shows up and I'm back to 0 FP. There's also a skill that restores your FP by 30 to everyone around you called Cooling Mist. And one of the strategies you usually will be doing, or should be doing, is grouping all of your guys around this person, because they can still attack, and it's a defensive strategy of making a wall around the Cooling Mist character, your water character, and they will use long range debuffs and attacks, and then afterwards you just use a Cooling Mist on everybody. And if you have multiple water users, you can just spam some of your strongest attacks into the opponent. It doesn't work as well for flanking as much, but it is when you have a straight line of just fighting, it's one of the best strategies you can do. But for the first half of the game, you're probably going to be using high speed to not take any damage at all, because most characters will not have low dex, and high speed was just, hey, you got a 10% chance to hit me. Sure, you might kill me outright, but you're probably never going to hit me. And you could do that alongside just making a high base and defense character and just make them untouchable. It's not recommended for the most part unless you want to try it, but these are creative things you can do with this system. One of my favorite things to do is I took a character named Claire and I made her a high damage glass cannon. I made her a glass cannon by increasing her power and her dex and almost maxing it out, and then just giving her best attacks and just letting her go nuts and making a wall in front of my high speed, high defense characters to make sure no one got to her. Now in the link in the description should be Vanguard Bandits Shrine, which gives you every single thing you could ever need for this game. But specifically you should look into attacks and support skills to see what you need. Most support skills are you get from increasing your health, your base. So it's heavily recommended for your support characters that they have a lot of health. Now let's get into what makes Vanguard Bandits great. The branching routes. Depending on how you handle the game till Mission 3 changes what faction you join. Now I'm not talking chatting up the blonde over the redhead, which does factor into some of the endings honestly. I'm talking how powerful you are. Bastion, your lead character. Are you the pilot that can defeat the Empire by yourself? Because if Bastion reaches level 8 by the end of level 3, he believes he can beat Volkner. And he chases after him alone to get revenge and leaving everyone behind. That's not even including the branching paths within the branching paths. There are 3, depending on how you deal with Radcott, one of the villains in the game, from agreeing to meet him or not changing if you get ambushed during the meeting, or if on your way to meet Diane, I believe is how his name is pronounced, where you'll be ambushed again, but under different terms. But that's not even including the branching paths of if you go to the meeting and win the encounter, you'll go back and meet Diane with, hey, whatever, or you could get defeated during the meeting ambush, and then go and get taken prisoner. Where you get to meet a future character that would join your roster, and this little girl, Nana, who steals Radcott's Earth ATAC. But if you don't get captured, you get to fight in Diane's tournament to prove you're worthy of getting the Ultra Gunner. If you do even, and this is where it gets crazier, if you do well enough, they'll give you a Samurai ATAC, the Mech. One of my favorite battles to showcase the flexibility of the mission structure is Mission 4 of Kingdom Route. The mission starts with you flanking Empire forces while saving Galvez from prison, using a massive invasion as a diversion. But once Zakuv, one of the villains, leaves the castle, your objective changes. You take the castle. Or you can just defeat everyone. Dair, Volkner, Zakuv, and even Zadira, one of the love interests of the game. Didn't even know this till later, but there's even more things you can do to this. I didn't know this till after I recorded everything, but one of your choice, if you choose the second choice when talking at the beginning, Devlin gets more powerful from how angry he is at you. But this level showcases why some of the strategies I talked about earlier are relevant. Because to defeat Faulkner and everyone in this battle, everyone is very powerful, way above where you should be. Using the FP system the way I was describing makes these fights doable by using your allies as a wall to take damage, like the Faulkner's fireball, and then attacking him afterwards and stunning him and having your team beat him down for massive experience boost. Matter of fact, there's even more interesting things in here. When you finally beat everybody, you even get the moment of Bastion talking to Sadira about what happened to his stepfather previously. Let's talk about the story. It starts with Kamors training Bastion in how to fight before Milia and Puck, the engineer, show up to warn you of an Empire attack. After the battle, you meet Reyna and Lone. Then you discover the horrors of war after a bandit attack where you meet Princess Sadira, Devlin, and Barlow. Then comes the game changer, where you choose your path for the rest of the game. Kamors holds off Faulkner while you fight Prince Dair. If you're level 8, you can chase Faulkner alone or be with your dying stepfather. Kamors tells you where you're the prince, and you're the only one that can pilot the Ultra Gunner to defeat the Empire and stop all war in the country. Then you follow a simple anime protag quest of saving your kingdom, getting the badass mech, and taking the war to the Empire taking on the Empire while making allies with the strongest pilots and leaders along the way. Along the way, there's death and betrayal, and I won't spoil anything too much on this route, but there are 2 endings for the Kingdom route, and I hope your team likes you. If you do choose to chase after Faulkner, as Bastion, he'll be level 8, so he knows he can fight Faulkner, and chases him for revenge, and gets ambushed by 6 Imperials. You will get captured no matter what, but you can still win this fight. Sadira saves you so you can join her small team that's trying to end the war using politics and helping others. While Bastion, being as strong as he is in this route, fears nothing and is depressed about what happened to his father, and usually runs headfirst into most of the fights. it's not even until later on that he finds out he's a prince. It's like chapter 8 or 10 by that point. Mostly because he never got to hear his father's last words. The thing is, it feels like the cast is still the same, but they experience a different journey since they never went with Bastion. Bastion still fights to end the war. Diane still wants you to prove yourself in combat. Faulkner's still evil. Galvus is the only one that I feel is different. Just that he's way more violent and bloodthirsty in this route, it feels like, until the end of it. Now, the final arc, the arc of the Ruin arc, is completely different. So what happens when you give the villain what he wants? So he takes the Ultra Gunner and leaves, but he can't drive it and you don't have it, so it's kind of out of the story. Needless to say, the whole thing is a joke arc. You can only play it if you've beaten the game before. And make sure you load your data before the mission that you have to do, because it tends to have problems remembering that you beat the game before. You get a new Super ATC made by Puck, and even a new OP once you've beaten the game. But just because it's a joke doesn't mean it's easy. Some of the hardest levels in the game are in this route, so be prepared for some hard-earned laughs. Like, comment, and subscribe, but I have to show you the last fight between Bastion and Faulkner. Spoilers ahead.
Faulkner! What can you possibly hope to accomplish using Zolwarn's black power?
It's quite simple, actually. I desire all humanity to bow before me.
I will not allow that to happen if it's within my power.
You see, the country in which I was born was ruined by the Empire. Or so I thought, until I learned the kingdom had committed that heinous act. That revelation drove me to slip into the Empire. Now that I see the hypocrisy on both sides, I shall destroy the kingdom and the Empire.
But Faulkner, there's no need to involve innocent people in your revenge. You seek to destroy both the kingdom and Empire. But don't you see? You're repeating the same mistakes you witnessed.
At some point, the weak are to be trampled by the strong. It's inevitable.
Just forgive and forget. Let it go, Faulkner.
It's not a matter of forgetting and forgetting, Prince Charming. This is harsh reality. My reality. My power over the continent shall grow to be absolute. No one shall hold sway over me again.
You're wrong, Faulkner. Zolwarn will own your soul. You had a choice. Choosing to visit pain upon innocence was the wrong one. They knew nothing of your past. And besides, even if you do make them suffer, their pain won't heal the pain you feel over your lost loved ones. Can't you see that? Your quest for absolute domination won't fill the void in your soul.
Enough speech, boy. Your words cannot save you from defeat in battle. Ha!
I won't lose to
you. You'll have to try harder than that, boy.
I cannot let you win, Faulkner. For the sake of my nation, for the sake of my friends, and for my sake, you shall be stopped.
Enough babbling! Zolvarn longs for new blood! Stand and perish!
I will defeat you for the honor of all those that perish to stop you!
Ha! Dream on, whelp!
You'll never win, Faulkner.
Perhaps this will be more to your liking. Ha!
Take this!
The time has come to end this cheap charade.
You can't seal me in darkness! I summon forth the light! Goodbye, Faulkner! I pity you!
What? This is impossible! His power is breaking through! It's over. Everything I am is over.